Finding the next Nvidia or Palantir is hard, and the reason why most people do miss them is they don't take the most futuristic companies seriously before it's too late. In this video, I'll explain how a startup worth just $12 billion today could be the leader in a $1 trillion market and deliver a multi-100% return. So you'll know if Joby Aviation deserves a spot in your portfolio while there's still time to be early. The most critical part about spotting a generational company before the rest of the market is building belief in the person that's challenging the status quo. And in the case of Joby, we might just be looking at the next Henry Ford. To get to and from school, Joby had to hike 5 miles from the nearest coastal bus stop. This insane commute sparked in him a question he would dedicate his life finding the answer to. Could there be an aircraft that saves hours, takes off vertically, and drops you down without disturbing the silence? By high school, it was clear that Joby had the mind to achieve his dream. He designed one of the world's first full suspension mountain bikes years before it became an industry standard. And in college at UC Davis, he had the privilege of interning for Paul Moeller, a pioneer in vertical takeoff aircraft in the 70s and 80s. Even in university, Joby was trying to figure out how he could build a silent helicopter. The only problem was he was just too early. Battery technology wasn't advanced enough to support electric flight. That's why, like Elon Musk, he had to build his wealth starting other companies while he waited for the perfect time to strike. Joby's first company, Velocity 11, was a robotic startup designed for lab automation at big pharma companies, and he sold it to Agilent Technologies in 2007. He then pivoted into consumer products, launching the hugely successful GorillaPod tripod brand. An entrepreneur without limits, he even launched Joby Energy to take a stab at aerial wind turbines. These experiences proved that Joby wasn't just a great engineer. He could build profitable companies that could scale, but he never forgot about his childhood dream. He'd been monitoring advances in battery tech for over a decade, and in September 2009, he finally founded Joby Aviation. Using his personal money to fund the operation, Joby and 7 engineers labored night and day in a barn in the Santa Cruz Mountains, building everything from electric motors to flight software, all from scratch. It would take them more than 10 years to reveal their project to the public, when Toyota led a massive $590 million funding round into their company. And when Joby went public in 2021, the boy who used to walk 5 miles to school became the world's first air taxi billionaire, because he'd built something so insanely ahead of anyone else. The hallmark of a generational company is a product that's 10 times better than any alternative. Joby's S4 aircraft is so revolutionary, it's like going from a horse to a car, a true engineering marvel that combines the strengths of both a helicopter and a plane. While it takes off vertically so it can land anywhere, it flies horizontally like an airplane to maximize speed and efficiency. 6 tilting propellers, 4 on the wing, 2 on a V-shaped tail enable this dual capability. Now the stats on this aircraft are crazy. The S4 can fly up to 200 miles an hour and can cover 150 miles on a single charge with a pilot and 4 passengers. This aircraft isn't for short city hops. I mean, this is true intercity transportation that can take you minutes while it would take you hours in a car. Just think of JFK to Manhattan in 7 minutes. It's mind-blowing. Now, what's actually most important about Joby's breakthrough is the sound. One reason why helicopter transport isn't more widespread is that they're insanely noisy. Communities raise hell for pickleball courts. Now imagine a sky full of helicopters. Joby's propulsion system is nearly silent. It spins 6 small propellers much slower than a helicopter's main rotor. The result, 65 decibels in hover, 45 decibels in overflight. That's 100 times quieter than a helicopter. Instead of intrusive chopping sounds, you hear a gentle whoosh that, in Joby's words, sound like the wind in the trees. This makes Joby's planes truly scalable as part of our society, but can they be safe? For Joby, safety is built into the physics of its aircraft through redundancy. Each propeller has dual wound motors with dual inverters. If one system fails, the other keeps running. No single point of failure can cause loss of thrust. This redundancy addresses the core challenge in vertical aviation, convincing regulators and passengers that the aircraft won't fall out of the sky. But there's an even crazier technological breakthrough that Joby recently showed. In June 2024, the company broke a world record. One of its planes flew 523 miles on hydrogen fuel, and it had 10% of its fuel left when it got back. Since hydrogen is 300 times more energy dense than batteries and 3 times more than jet fuel, it not only positions Joby for maximizing short-range missions, but also longer regional routes like SF to LA. Now, the last thing I'll say about Joby's technology is that it's fully vertically integrated. They designed their motors, inverters, battery packs, flight control computers, actuators, propellers, and composite airframe components all in-house in the United States of America. This is the exact manufacturing approach that allowed Elon to build rocket rockets that were superior to anyone else's. But how close are we really to seeing Jobys starting to fly around our cities? Timing is absolutely critical when picking a stock. Of course, you can be too late, but you can also be too early. So why is now the most rewarding time to become an investor in Joby? Well, it's on the cusp of regulatory approval and full-scale manufacturing. Joby was such a pioneering force, it worked with the FAA to create an entirely new category of aircraft. The agency has a 5-stage certification process, and Joby was the first eVTOL company to complete stage 3. That means the FAA has accepted all of Joby's certification plans covering structural, mechanical, electrical, cybersecurity, human factors, and noise systems. They're now 62% complete with stage 4 and on track to secure full certification by 2026. A huge milestone also just occurred in August of this year. Joby executed the first piloted eVTOL flight between 2 public airports, Marina to Monterey, California in 10 minutes versus the 30 minutes it would have taken during rush hour. Joby's aircraft even sequenced with other traffic, including holding patterns for arriving airliners. With this feat, Joby proved they can operate within existing air transportation infrastructure, not just in isolated test environments. And the United States may not even be the first place we see Joby's fully operational. In June, Joby completed piloted test flights in Dubai, where the company has signed a 6-year exclusive deal with the government to operate an air taxi service and develop a network of vertiports. But here's a critical question. While Joby might be close to commercial operations, can it make enough aircraft to scale? Their Marina, California facility has expanded to 435,000 square feet with capacity for 24 aircraft annually. But it's their 2 million square foot factory in Dayton, Ohio that could help the company scale to making hundreds, even thousands of aircraft per year. Interestingly enough, this Dayton location is actually the birthplace of aviation. It's the same valley where the Wright brothers imagined men and flying machines, and where the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is, where countless aerial innovations were architected. With any futuristic idea though, there's never just one company working on it. So how does Joby stack up to the competition? Before we dive into the competition, I did want to emphasize one more time how much regulation impacts stocks like Joby. For example, when President Trump posted an executive order in January around electric aircraft, it sent Joby stocks soaring. That's why I built a free tool in my Discord called the Trump Tracker. It automatically notifies you when Trump posts on Truth Social, so if he mentions a specific stock or industry, you can move on it fast. Check it out for free at the link in the description. The stocks that can truly change your life are well on their way to becoming monopolies. And while there's always competition, Joby is in a league of its own. In the US, Joby's competitor is Archer, which is also publicly traded, but their tech, progress, and business models are very different. Archer is valued at around half of Joby's market cap, as it's further behind on FAA certification and doesn't possess the same advantages in technology or vertical integration. And on performance, there's some big differences between Joby and Archer's aircraft. Joby's S4 has 200 mile an hour top speed versus Archer's 150, and Joby's 150-mile range is significantly more than Archer's 20 to 50 miles. On the engineering front, Archer is not vertically integrated. Instead, it leans on traditional aerospace suppliers, and it's also partnering with automaker Stellantis on manufacturing. As for FAA progress, Archer is just 12 to 13% done with stage 4, while Joby is 62%, giving it a huge head start. Archer's business strategy is also very different from Joby's. Unlike Joby, which plans to own most of the planes it produces and incorporate them into its own air taxi operation, Archer will be selling its planes to United Airlines to operate under their brand. And when it comes to the routes they'll be flying, Archer's low-range planes are designed more for super short taxi-like routes from airports to city centers, while Joby will be actually capable of longer intercity routes. Overall, you can view Archer as more of a B2B supplier, while Joby is pursuing the consumer-facing, fully vertically integrated playbook, all the way from the app you book a flight on to the factory the plane is made in. If the air taxi can be as big as it's projected to be, Joby has positioned itself to capture a disproportionate amount of the value. But when you're attempting to create a trillion-dollar industry from scratch, you can't do it alone. To become a generational wealth builder, a company needs massive distribution. For Joby, it's already locked in huge distro channels on the consumer side and landed the biggest organizations as backers for manufacturing. Joby's deep, multi-year partnership with Toyota creates a huge advantage. Toyota produces 10 out of every 100 cars made every year, and it's not just offering to share its advice on how to build at scale with Joby. They led the company's $590 million Series B, and in October 2024, announced a $500 million commitment, the first $250 million of which Joby received in May. And the interest from giants doesn't stop there, because the biggest customer in the world is also interested in what Joby has to offer. Under the Agility Prime program, the US Air Force is expected to purchase up to 9 Joby vehicles, 2 of which have already been delivered in a deal that could be worth up to $131 million. On top of this, Joby's partnership with defense contractor L3 Harris will see it develop VTOLs for defense applications. Government contracts could bring in steady cash flow and open up billions in revenue, while Joby safely scales up the consumer business that will make it huge. Now, on top of partnerships, partnerships, Joby has already executed on 2 extremely strategic acquisitions. In 2020, they acquired Uber's air taxi division, which included an additional investment from Uber. This brought a decade of on-demand mobility software in-house, like market selection algorithms, demand simulation tools, and multimodal transportation integration. Uber is already integrating Joby into its transportation network, so you can book your flight and a car ride to the vertiport in one transaction. But Joby's most recent acquisition might be the most game-changing. For $125 million, the company purchased Blade's Uber for Helicopters passenger business, which gives Joby access to a network of 12 terminals near major airports and a user base of 50,000 existing passengers who flew in 2024. But unless Joby can remain in a strong cash position and get to revenue, all this is meaningless. So what do the financials say? If Joby stands to deliver multi-1,000% returns, it needs the resources to get to revenue and an insanely large market to attack. The company is expected to burn over $500 million this year, a fortress of nearly $1 billion in cash, bolstered by the first half of Toyota's $500 million. The company has considerable runway. In addition to this, Joby is already amassing a significant order backlog, potentially bringing in billions. In June, they signed an MOU with one of Saudi Arabia's largest companies, Abdul Latif Jameel, for 200 aircraft in a deal valued at $1 billion. Defense contracts and aircraft orders like this will generate short-term cash, but primary revenue will come from the air taxi business when it launches publicly in 2026. So how big can this business really be for Joby over the next few years? With target pricing of $6 per mile, riding in a Joby will start at the same price as an Uber Black per seat, though it will drop over time. At an average distance per flight of 25 miles, Joby could pull in $600 per flight. With each aircraft operating 10 flights per day, 300 days per year, each aircraft produces $1.8 million in annual revenue. To generate $1 billion in revenue, Joby will need 550 aircraft in service, and the Ohio factory is being designed to make that many aircraft in just a year. Assuming there's sufficient demand, Joby could hit this milestone by 2028. Given the company's valuation today is already in the range of $12 billion, it's not unrealistic that at $1 billion in revenue, Joby could have one of the market's highest price-to-sales ratios. As the undisputed leader in an air taxi market Morgan Stanley estimates could be worth $1 trillion by 2040, Joby could easily trade at 50 times price-to-sales in a few years, putting the stock in the range of $50 billion, representing a conservative 4x increase in the stock price from around 14 a share today to 60 in the next 3 years. Then say we look a little farther to 2030, where Joby may have 1,000 aircraft, this company could be worth north of $100 billion, up from $12 billion today. Now, of course, there's so much that can derail this thesis, especially in the short term. From potential crashes and fatalities setting the industry back years, to constant manufacturing delays or supply constraints over critical inputs like chips or magnets. And looming over all this are changes in regulation which could cripple Joby's business. But with these risks considered, it really is just so mind-blowing to think about how Joby could change our world and reshuffle our economy. A once-in-a-lifetime company's impact is never limited to just its industry, and the transformative impacts Joby could have on our society cannot be understated when we think about its current valuation. Just think of its impact on real estate, which is one of the world's largest asset classes. A house 50 miles outside Manhattan, priced like the suburbs today, suddenly becomes a 10-minute from downtown property. Developers are already tapping Joby for vertiports to pitch condos and mixed-use projects with rooftop pads included. If you can live in Napa and reach your San Francisco desk in 12 minutes, why would you pay SF rents? Greater choice over where you live is just one dimension to the air taxi revolution. The average American spends 9.5 full days commuting to work each year, and Joby has the potential to free up hours in the day for people to spend their time more meaningfully. The company is worth just over $10 billion today, but if it succeeds, it's not hard to envision that this could be one of the most important companies ever built. Unlike the auto industry, the air taxi space will be highly concentrated, with a couple of players that spent decades getting the green light from lawmakers. If the industry does become a staple of transportation, it's not unreasonable to assume Joby can have the lion's share of a $1 trillion market in 15 years. And if you're looking for a high upside investing opportunity, Joby feels as asymmetric as it gets. Thank you for watching this video. I'd love to know in the comments what you think of the impending air taxi revolution. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll really love this video I made, and you'd also really love this video I made.